Today is December 10th. December 10th is a very, very important day to me. I'm going to tell you why, and in doing so, I'm going to tell you a story. It's going to be kind of a long story. I'm also going to give you a warning now. People have complained in the past I don't always give this warning, but this is likely going to be one of those videos. If you've watched any of my videos before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you're one of those people who likes to partake, right now might be a good time for you to pause the video, grab yourself a drink, and then come back, and you can have one with me. I've got this picture on my phone right now that I'm gonna put up on the screen for you. The guy in this picture is this is my good friend Todd. Todd was my machine gunner when I deployed to Iraq. Prior to deploying to Iraq, I told some stories before about how I was shortly before the Iraq war started, I had taken myself out of the platoon. I was going to go to OCS. I was going to become a lieutenant rather than being a sergeant that I was. When everything started happening with the war, I decided that I was going to go back to my unit. In doing so, I lost my team and I got put kind of at the end of the platoon, tacked on with all the replacements. Todd was one of the replacements. He was a brand new soldier, pretty fresh out of basic training, and he was assigned to me. We were getting ready to deploy, and before you do that, you have to kind of redo all your certifications. One of the certifications that we had to do was that we had to re-qualify with our gas masks. Anybody that really knows me or has known me for any period of time knows that I'm not someone who is going to back away from a challenge. As a matter of fact, I'm one of those guys that likes to challenge I like to challenge the younger guys to see if they can keep up with me, because rather than be on the defensive and try to keep up with them, I'd rather be on the offensive and try to prove to them that I'm the big dog and that they're the one that needs to keep up with me. So on this day, if you don't know, the way you certify with your gas masks, in the Army at least, is you go into sometimes it's a brick building, sometimes it's like a tent, and in that tent is tear gas. There's some people in there wearing their masks. They've got this tray that's like a burner, and they're putting all these tablets on there, they're cooking them, and they're basically filling the tent with tear gas. You go in there wearing your masks, and then in order to prove that there's tear gas in the room, you're ordered to take your mask off, and you have to open your eyes and take a breath and experience the tear gas, and then you get to put your mask back on. You have to clear your mask, you cover the hole, you blow, all the tear gas goes out of your mask, and then you can start breathing again. So everybody does this every single time, and then what you do is sometimes they'll make you take off your mask and find your way out of the room. Sometimes you get to wear your mask as you get to walk out. I think the majority of the time everyone has to take off their mask, you have to open your eyes, you have to find your way out of the room, just to prove that, I don't know, maybe it's just a thing to see how tough you are. I don't really know the point of it, but one thing that I did was I challenged Todd, made a bet with him. I don't remember what the wager was, but I bet him that I could stand in the gas longer than he could. So we go into the room with everybody else, and we made sure that we were at the back of the line because we didn't want to be standing in front of people who were trying to get out of the room, because we were going to try to stay in the room as long as possible. And so we go in, we break the seal on our mask, take in some gas, you put the mask back on, you reseal, you evacuate all the gas, and then you walk around the room. I think you have to do some jumping jacks and stuff like that, get a little sweat going, the stuff gets into your pores, it starts to sting a little bit. Then you take off your mask and you walk out of the room. So when we were ordered to take off our masks, Todd and I stayed in the room, and we had the instructor or the proctor, whoever it was, stayed in the room with us, and he was wearing his mask and we were not wearing our mask. He was there kind of for safety in case we were overcome by the gas and we needed to be helped out of the room. So Todd and I stood there staring at each other, and after not very long, 10-15 seconds, you really start to feel the effects of the tear gas. you know, your eyes are burning, your nose starts running. You have to take if you want to try to survive the gas, you have to take really short, shallow breaths. So we were doing that, and we weren't sure if either one was holding our breaths, so we started talking to each other, kind of challenging each other. And then it got to the point where Todd was actually pretty well overcome with gas, but he was not, he was a tough kid. He was not willing to admit defeat. So he was going to stay there as long as I was going to stay in there, until finally the instructor said, okay, you guys are freaking disgusting, get the hell out of here. Well, right when he said that, we started to turn, and then I realized that Todd had this long thing of snot hanging out of his nose. So I pulled out a disposable camera, and that might even be part of the challenge, that we were going to take pictures of each other in there, and that's how we were going to judge who won. I can't quite remember. But I pulled out my disposable camera, and I snapped this picture of Todd. And then the instructor was like, all right, you guys are sick bastards, get the hell out of here. So we ran out of the room, and I don't know, I felt pretty confident that I won that challenge that day, because I had my eyes open and I was able to see that Todd had this giant string of snot hanging from his face, and I was able to snap a photo of it. It's that story that I told you is one of my all-time favorite memories, probably of my life. Because I was sharing it with one of the best men that I ever met. The reason that December the 10th is such an important day to me is because on December the 10th, 2003 is the day that Todd Bates died. We were in Iraq. I was no longer in his platoon. This is towards the end of our deployment. I'd been promoted and sent to another platoon to become a squad leader, and somebody else took over my team. Todd was no longer my gunner, he was somebody else's machine gunner. They were working on the riverboat patrols. We stayed just inside the green zone at the palace, directly across from the big cross swords. That it was like a parade ground. If you've ever seen those pictures of Iraq, I'll try to find one, I'll stick in the video here. We stayed in that palace inside the green zone, and one of the jobs that we had was to man the Iraqi police station that had the riverboat patrol. Those boats were going up and down the Tigris River, which separated the green zone from the rest of Baghdad. Their job was basically, you know, just your basic patrol, make sure nobody was coming across the river and stuff like that. December the 10th, 2003 was meant to be our final day of active missions in country. We were set to start taking down all of our equipment, taking down all of our tents, and getting ready to make the trip back to Kuwait so we could come back to the United States on the following day. Unfortunately, December 10th was not our final day of missions, because on the evening of December 10th, while on patrol on a small Iraqi police boat, there was a soldier who fell out of the boat wearing all of his gear, and Todd, being the man that he was, had his gear prepped and ready to go. He stripped his gear, he dove into the water and tried to save his fellow soldier. Neither man came to the surface that night. I mentioned that I'd been moved to a different platoon, but some of the guys came and got me, woke me up and said, hey, Todd fell in the water with somebody else. We're gonna go out and try to find him. Do you want to get up and come with us? Which I did. I went out to the river that night with everybody else from my former platoon, which those guys were really my best friends, the people that I've been closest to for a long period of time. Several of them were actually at my wedding, which was many years later. We walked up and down the banks expecting to see Todd around every corner. He was one of the best men we met. He was very strong. I didn't think that there was any way that something else could have happened that night. Unfortunately, it did. The next morning, the soldier who was wearing all of his gear was found at the bottom of the river, not far from where he fell in. Wearing his body armor with his ammunition, everything that he had on him, he didn't travel very far in the river. Todd, who had stripped all of his gear, was not found. We spent the next 2 weeks walking up and down the banks of that river, calling in helicopters and calling in dive teams every time we saw the slightest little thing in the water move. And then when we weren't doing that, we were back at camp tearing down our equipment and getting ready to get shipped back home. We left Baghdad on December the 24th, Christmas Eve, and we had not yet found Todd. A couple days before that, we had a memorial service, and I had the honor of speaking on Todd's behalf at the memorial service. It's one of the great honors of my life, honestly. But on December the 24th, we were ordered to leave. So we packed up all of our vehicles. We had a long convoy. We were going out through the gates, and one of our vehicles got a flat tire. It was one of our deuce and a halves. So we were stuck there for a little while, right outside the gate, while they tried to change his tire. And by the grace of God, our company commander received a phone call while we were still in Baghdad, letting us know that they found Todd. If that vehicle had not gotten a flat tire, we would have been in a place where he would not have been able to receive a phone call, and we wouldn't have known until we got, probably 2 days later, until we got back down to Kuwait. So we ended up getting down to Kuwait on Christmas Day. Needless to say, it was the worst Christmas of my life. I remember getting down to Kuwait, going to the chow hall on Christmas Day, which in the military, they really roll out good food for major holidays like that. Everybody was celebrating. All the other people that were there were celebrating. They had some soldier that had dressed up like Santa Claus, was probably the mess sergeant or something like that, was visiting all the tables. And it didn't feel like Christmas to us. That's the only way I can describe that. But every year for December the 10th, every year since that year, this is going to be the 16th year, I get together with at least a couple of my buddies. We have some drinks, we tell stories, we catch up, talk about our families, and we remember Todd. So that's what I'll be doing today while you're watching this video. I'm not recording it on the 10th, obviously, but I wanted to tell you this story. I wanted to let you know about my friend Todd, because I vowed after that happened to always tell his story, because I feel like it's my job to keep him alive. So if you're not opposed, do me a favor, get a glass, get your finest whiskey or bourbon, pour a little out for my buddy Todd. And that's what I'm doing tonight. Thanks for hanging out and listening to his story. I'll talk to you guys soon.